Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi friends, welcome to our analysis of Season 4, Episode 7 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is entitled Home. Let's do a round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Ginger.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. So this episode is written by Yalan Chang and directed by Richard Shepard and nominated for an Emmy for Yalan Chang. So let's do it. The credits are silent, and then we hear the ocean, June breathing, and you hear Tuello, but almost as if she was in shock again. But then quickly we hear him more clearly, and he and Rachel are obviously very excited to see June, as if she is a celebrity of sorts. And Luke and Moira are behind her as she takes in the refugee question. Miss Osborne, if you return to Gilead, would you be subject to a danger of torture, a risk to your life, or a risk of cruel and unusual punishment? Well, that's an easy answer. And then Rachel takes over and says, would you be persecuted based on being a woman? And, June pauses for effect because Jesus Christ, yes. And then he says, we understand you're here to seek safety and asylum as a citizen of the United States. Moira says, you got this. And June says, my name is June Osborne. I'm a citizen of the United States and I seek asylum in the country of Canada. How do people know they're supposed to say that? That was my first question.
I was wondering that too.
I have no idea.
If they did know, I'm sure they'd all be practicing it all the time and they would remember it, but I don't know how they would have been informed of that. Anyway, it is a very effective moment, of course, but it's a very moving moment.
I mean, they seem to say that to everybody who comes in. Is this kind of like Miranda rights, the United States?
Yeah. I think so, because when Emily landed ashore, that was nearly the first thing said to her. So yes.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? This is one of the most traumatic thing. I mean, it's so overwhelming. You're getting out, and she wasn't even sure if she could trust these people at that point. And it's just that's a lot to take to do all at once. At least June had some time to prepare mentally.
Yes. Yeah. But it seemed like, because Moira said you got this, that it was expected of her, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that Moira encouraged her though.
Yeah.
Moira
was very nervous of her bailing at any moment ever since she found her, right? Then they play At Last by Etta James, which is fucking brilliant, as June and the group pulls up to a fancy hotel and she's thrust headfirst into an extreme difference from Gilead, fancy lobby, rich people. Actually, it looks a bit like Jezebel's, probably because that was filmed here too, right?
Mm-hmm.
As well as the Luke and June affair, I think. But I digress. Luke is looking at her super affectionately and lovingly. He's happy that she's there. And they all crowd onto an elevator and she looks not super at ease in the front of that elevator as the doors close. And I have to think that in reality they'd sneak her through a back door or something. But
I love though how rough she looks and she's all dirty and bruised and she's in this super fancy hotel where everybody's all put together.
It's a great contrast.
And she's being given the VIP treatment. I think they even have that in the dialogue. This is where we take all of our VIP refugees. And I'm thinking, how many VIP refugees do they have?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because when they all got in the elevator, nobody really looked very happy. I feel since this season is talking about the theme of freedom, it almost felt like it was symbolic. June is getting in this elevator and she's free and it should be happy, but the doors close, almost like it's trapping her, especially since she didn't want to go to Canada to begin with.
Oh.
Well, and the contrast between the song is perfect because she does not feel, that's not the way she's feeling, which we think she would be. It's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
They show us the room first through the overstocked fridge, the fancy artwork, everything over the top after comes such a basic life. And Mark is once again speaking, but not really being heard by June. It's just kind of muffled in the background as she looks out the window at Toronto. And you see not only the city, but you see fumes rising as another extreme difference from Gilead. The differences aren't all awesome, And I imagine she's gotten quite used to the simplicity of Gilead. And she doesn't even snap out of it when he says, see you soon, and he and Rachel leave. So then she's left with Luke and Moira fills the silence, remarking on how much nicer this place is than the refugee center. But really quickly says she's going to leave and she'll see her tomorrow and bring Nicole. June looks like shocked, but hugs her, and Moira says her goodbyes to Luke, cutely asking to steal some lotions, and hugs him. And they're obviously, we've seen it before, but they're really good together, Luke and Moira. I object strongly to Moira leaving June quite so quickly before she knows what June needs or wants.
Me too.
Yeah. I think it especially bothers me because Moira obviously knows how concerned June was about seeing Luke without Hannah, and probably just in general. So like it does bother me that like it seemed like she was there for like 2 minutes and then she's like, okay, see you, like didn't even ask her, are you okay with this?
I found it uncomfortable all around that even Mark and Rachel did not ask her if she was comfortable just immediately cohabitating with her husband again. I wanted to share a real life example of sort of a similar situation that I heard about on a podcast. So the podcast was called Against the Odds, and it was season 2, Kidnapped in the Desert. And it was about a 2011 humanitarian aid worker named Jessica Buchanan, who was held captive by Somaliland pirates for 93 days before being rescued by the American military. And when she was reunited with her husband again, this was done very gradually. She was part of the Department of Defense hostage reintegration program. This was voluntary, but she wanted to take advantage of any mental health support that was offered to her. And the process was very restricted. She and her husband met on a military base in Italy. For their very first meeting, they only spent 1 hour together in a hospital room. And she said it was enough. They knew what they were doing. Anything more than that would have been too much. On the podcast, she didn't give any more details about how long that gradual reintegration process took. And I was really curious about that. Like, I was like, so does that mean they meet like once a day for an hour and gradually build up to that? But I kind of got the impression it was a series of brief visitations like that to not overwhelm her or to contribute to her trauma with too much too fast. And so I listened to this after I had seen this episode where June comes back and is reunited with Luke. And it just, I'm really curious how you guys felt about that, because she definitely looked overwhelmed. She looked, I mean, it's a lot to take in. She's out and she seems to be sort of in this disassociated state a little bit, just because she's being very quiet and she's very in her head. And it was surprising to me that nobody engaged with her and asked her, what are you comfortable with? What do you want at this point? Do you want Luke to stay here? Would you like separate rooms? Just kind of asking her comfort level. They just sort of assumed, okay, she's back with her husband and they can have dinner and etc. And even Moira, like you said, it surprised me a lot that she didn't ask. So are you okay with this? And I don't know. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I feel like it's just a function of it being a TV show, like, because they've been somewhat inconsistent in that Emily wasn't, thrust into Sylvia's house right away or even forced to tell her that she was here until she was ready.
I feel like they're doing it differently though because it's June. And I think because
more of this hero, she's a hero, not a human.
She's a hero, and like Moira and Luke know her and want her back, and I feel like they think it's different than how it was with Emily, because it did bother me when I first saw this that she was just kind of like thrust into this without anyone asking her, especially because this woman has been in a place where she wasn't allowed to make any decisions for herself for many, many years. So definitely it was such a shock to her. Like the whole time this scene is happening, like she's just staring out the window. It's like she's in a trance. It's like she's not listening. You have no idea what like Tuello and anybody is saying unless you put on the closed captions.
That's what I did. Right.
Because I also wondered, why wasn't she checked out by a doctor? But if you put on the closed captions, it does say she was checked out by a doctor on the ship. And then they offered her a female doctor at the hotel and a therapist and a mental health counselor.
Yeah.
I would also suggest that both she and Luke could have used some counseling to help both of them with this reintegration, because he doesn't know either how to handle the situation effectively.
I kind of don't see June accepting like couples counseling.
Not couples. No, I don't mean couples counseling.
Individual counseling.
No, yeah, individual. Yeah. That's what I meant. Was just someone to give Luke some guidance on like the best
Yeah, for
the
sure.
best approach with
Yeah.
a trauma victim.
Yeah.
And he didn't really seem to, he was kind of flying blind. He didn't really seem to have any guidance in that area.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
so-
felt bad for him because it didn't seem like he had any clue of like what to do with himself either. Like they
Yeah.
shut the door and it's just really awkward because what do you do? Like you haven't seen each other in 7 years. So, and now you have this woman who's like severely traumatized.
Yeah. I didn't see the captions for this one. Is this where they gave her the anthropology card too? Or
Yes,
said
I
they
was
were-
just
Yeah.
about to say
Yeah.
that.
So funny to me. I mean, I think Lizzie loves anthropology.
Throwback. In episode 105, the new off Glen bombing
Mhm.
off Glen, when she's saying about that she prefers this life because she had nothing in the previous life, she was saying she bet June's family had like a Nordstrom card, and
Yeah.
June says something like, "Oh, I prefer anthropology."
Oh,
Yeah.
But I'm pretty shocked that they would give her anthropology. Like you could get like a few pieces of clothing.
Also, how did they know that?
Well, Luke and
I
Moira
guess-
know.
Yeah, I think
Luke
it's because
or
of Luke and
Moira.
Moira because they said they got her anthropology clothes or the card, and then they said they had all her favorite foods. And I kind of was like cringing at this part because they're like, oh, you could take a bath if you want. And I'm thinking she does not want to take a bath. So like it seemed like Luke and Moira must have given them like information on what she used to like, which, you know, at this
Mhm.
point, who even knows?
I mean, that's all they can do though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're trying to make her comfortable in this, you know, an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
Oh, I also thought it was cute how Moira said, I love you to Luke when she left, or love you. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I felt like that was also like really shocking to June to see because last she knew they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, like she sees her best friend and her husband saying, I love you. And like she's telling him to bring home the little soap.
Yeah, I like their friendship. It's cute that they went, complete 180 really from
Yeah,
before.
Right. Yeah, because June had said to Nick when she heard like they're gonna kill each other, but it's quite the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
It's working well.
Yeah, now they're throwing out I love yous. And she's probably
I
like,
know.
what the fuck happened while I was gone?
And then Luke awkwardly asks, what does she want to do? Food, drink, bathroom. And she slightly nods at bathroom and then walks right past him awkwardly into the bathroom. And she just seems to still be in shock, which is entirely understandable. When she gets in there, she shuts the door and makes a point to lock it, which is not an option she often had in Gilead.
No.
And then she takes herself in, a look at herself in like the giant hotel mirror. She turns on the shower. When is the last time she had a shower? Ever in Gilead? No, right?
Yeah, I had the same note because I was not sure what the situation at Lawrence's house was. Did he have showers or was it
It was a
only a
tub.
bath? It was a tub the same way at the
Mhm.
Waterfords? Because I had the same
Yeah.
thing. This is probably her first shower in God knows how long.
Does Gilead not like showers? They like tubs.
Yeah, it's weird.
Also the mirror, because mirrors were also scarce. So I'm trying to remember if she had opportunities to see herself in the mirror. Was this the first time she was looking at herself in a mirror?
Well, she looked at herself on the boat. I almost had that note too, but she looked at herself on the boat
Mm.
before Luke came in. So, but I
Okay.
mean, any sort of actual long look in a mirror, yes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's move to the shower. She stands in the water while we see the wounds all over her back. And when she gets out, she comes out in a red robe, which at the time I found a shocking choice. I think they would have at least thought to provide her a white option, which they might have. We didn't see. And she sees Luke out in the living room, really overthinking the food arrangement. He just really wants everything to be perfect. But rather than say anything to him, she shuts the door. And the next shot we see is of Luke by himself at this table full of food, wondering where she is. And he comes in and sees her asleep on the bed. And there's this brief shot of the exterior of the hotel before June wakes up in the hotel bed with Luke laying on the couch, which I think is respectful of him.
But again, why do they put her in a room where there's only one bed? Like that's another thing that bothers
Yes, me too. One room. It looked like a suite, but it only had one room, one bed. But it just, I agree. I felt like it's a lot of assumptions all at once from a lot of different people.
But Luke gets points because he didn't lay in that bed with her. He's laying on a
Yeah.
couch that's probably
Mhm.
uncomfortable rather than in her space. But I agree that obviously they should have had a whole different situation. she asks him if she dozed off, and he says it's the next day. She slept for 17 hours. And I bet that is exactly what she would do. And he jokes about pre-Gilead, how a long sleep would always feel like such an achievement for her. She laughs and says she doesn't think she ever made it to 17 hours. And he says it's a milestone. And she's like, I guess everything from here on out is a milestone. And he's like super happy, saying, I can't believe you're here. And she's still like sad, I think probably because she's about to talk to him about Hannah. And she asks if he wants to come sit. She immediately like apologizes for missing room service. Sounds like she's very sorry about it. And Luke says it's crazy. She keeps apologizing ever since the boat. He says he should be the one that's sorry. He tried to get her out. He tried to find Hannah. He tried every day and he failed, and he's sorry. And he doesn't blame her. She can't forgive herself because he can't forgive himself. OD's acting is fantastic here. But then she kind of, I don't know, you kind of see her put the taking care of Luke mask on then. And she tells him Hannah knows how much we love her and that we tried to find her because I told her. And he's like totally shocked how. She tells him about the summer house truthfully. She's leaving out the most recent traumatic Hannah in a box reunion, but she tells him she was beautiful and she was mad. She asks why she hadn't tried harder to find her. And she says that was our Hannah. And it's just a nice, honest conversation. I didn't know she would protect him from Hannah being mad stuff, but she doesn't. And Luke said, and she says, I told her that I'd always be her mommy, and that her daddy and I would always love her. And Luke says, you're a good mother, and kisses her head. And she says, no, I'm not. As you see her remembering Hannah in the box.
Made me cry.
I know. Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah. This initial conversation where they're talking about Hannah is so moving to me. I had a note about when Luke apologizes to June, she stops him saying, please don't. And it reminded me of when June and Nick are on the bridge and Nick is beginning to apologize to her and explain, and she says, stop. But June's please don't, in this instance, had a different vibe to me. It was almost like she was pleading with him, please don't, to stop apologizing. Like his apology wasn't helping her in that moment. And in this case, when she says, please don't, he doesn't stop. I mean, he had to get out what he wanted to say, and that's totally fine. And I totally understood Luke's feelings in that moment and how he just needed to express himself. I just found that to be an interesting parallel.
I think, like, we've seen Luke, he seems to, like, compartmentalize his feelings, and, you know, he was always like, June's fine, you know, Hannah's fine, like, you know, stuff like that. And then I feel like in this scene, he kind of just needed to let it out. His guilt must be so horrendous that I just feel like he was kind of pouring out, and he couldn't stop even when she wanted him to. Like, it's just an awful, awful situation.
Yeah.
It'd be so hard to live with yourself knowing, you know, your daughters.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you said. Even though he doesn't necessarily, we don't see it all the time. Obviously, he's suffering from like tremendous guilt.
Yeah.
I think from her perspective, like she just isn't ready to hear that yet. And she seemed uncomfortable with it. And I felt her vibe change. Like I almost felt like talking about Hannah was like changing the subject in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So like, she doesn't want to talk about like her, you know, what got them into this situation. But I think she feels like Hannah bonds us. Let's talk about her. I could give him something happy. And when he's kissing her forehead and like telling her she's a good mom, which I really love that he did that. She feels like a terrible mom, you know, and obviously she was super upset about it on the boat and everything coming over here. And then when she saw him, so I was glad that he said that.
This was probably the most connection I saw between them in this episode. This moment was kind of the best moment, I thought, between the two of them, where they really had an opportunity to.
I think this is probably my favorite scene between them, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He honestly did an amazing job in that scene, because this is the first time he's had real information about Hannah in 7 years, coming straight from his wife.
Right.
It's super emotional. It's like just a deluge. It's huge, and it's overwhelming, and I can't help but cry when I watch that, and it's heartwarming and heartbreaking all at the same time, and it's played out so well, and it's an amazing scene.
Then she's being debriefed by Tuello, and I get confused by this question. She's telling him it was Billy who coordinated Angel's flight with her. Was he not the pilot? Did he just coordinate it? For some reason I thought he was the pilot, and I'm like, how did you not meet the pilot of that plane? I hope Billy survives. Tuella praises how amazing it was that she got all those kids out with so little help and asks why she did. And I always find her answer so interesting because she wanted to hurt Gilead the way they hurt her. It wasn't for the kids, it was for revenge. She thought about what they deserved. Mark asked who, and she says the kidnappers, the Serenas. She thought about what Serena deserved. Must be hard for Tuella to hear this about his girlfriend. And she says, I mean, really. Like,
No, I had that same
it can't be
thought,
her. Yeah. And she says, they take everything from you, they really do. And then Luke comes in with water and asks if she wants to take a break. She asks when Nicole is coming in, and Tuello interjects that Moira will be bringing her by later. And Luke says, we can be done now if you want, and whispers to her, do you want me to take you home to see her? And Tuello interjects again, it's best to debrief while your memories are fresh before they're contaminated. But Luke puts his foot down and says, she can debrief later. Right now, I'm going to take my wife home to see our daughter. And she gives him a surprised look when he calls her our daughter, as did I. But it is one hell of a complicated situation.
First of all, what Twello says about the debriefing, I found a lot to back that up online, that's accurate, that in a situation like this, before they fully reintegrate into a former life or even with friends and family, sometimes they want to do a complete debrief of everything when all of their memories are still fresh. And for some people, I think they find it very cathartic to get all of that out at that point. And in some cases, it can also, everybody is different, but in some cases, it can also be re-traumatizing, but it can also be re-traumatizing if they wait to debrief until later and then they have to pull everything back up from their memories after being reintegrated back into a normal life. But I found the choice to have Luke want to pull her out of this and take her home. We do see at the end of this episode, we do see June going back to Tuello and completing the debrief, but
I think he's trying genuinely to do his best for her and to make her feel comfortable. I don't think anyone knows what that is, but
she does look like she has mixed feelings when he says our daughter, though.
I think maybe she was happy in one sense that, like, obviously him and Maura have been looking after her and he's formed this attachment with her. Which I guess, June really likes that. Obviously, we see that in the episode that,
right.
She's really impressed with both Moira and Luke for parenting Holly.
Yeah.
And to me, her look was more like, I think she really wanted to just go see Holly. I feel like she was just busting to kind of see her and maybe wanted to get out of there.
Yeah. That's what I thought initially. Like, I think initially she looked kind of happy at the mention of her daughter. And like you said, probably him taking care of her. But I do think it bothered her that he said our daughter. Realistically, she just saw Nick not that long ago. Because we kind of see this like later on when she's alone with Holly in the room. But obviously he's on her mind when she sees their daughter.
I think it was just weird. I don't think she was upset. I think it was just like, every time I think of her, it's, Nick's and my daughter, obviously. And then she heard that and it was just like stunningly, like, I don't think it was necessarily bad or good or I guess it was both.
I think she just didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, she didn't know what to do with it. That's all.
It was jarring.
She wasn't mad. It was just like not expected. But yeah, I mean, sure, that he's really internalized, being Holly's dad, and that's good, but it's definitely a fucking weird situation.
Another thing I thought about in that is that he is aware of who the father is. So it's almost like he's trying to disconnect Nick from the situation and focus on, June's home, and she's reunited with her daughter, and he has been, of course, he's the, if you want to call, adoptive father to Nicole, and I know he loves her. I can see him saying our daughter to show her acceptance of this child into his life, but at the same time, the non-recognition of who the actual biological father is, and that it's a man who's significant to June, because he knows now it was not the product of rape. He knows it comes out of actual, genuine love and affection that June has for the biological father.
I agree that I wish that Luke hadn't said that then. I think that at that time he should be calling her Holly and being careful, and they have no idea how they're going forward with this, and I agree.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think he did it maliciously. I think, like usual,
No.
he does things.
He probably didn't even think, probably just said it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
definitely not a malicious thing. It's just, I think in a previous podcast episode, somebody made a comment about how there should have been a conversation about this rather than him just
Right.
making an assumption about who he is or how he should address Nicole, how he should refer to her.
Yes, they need to have a labeling conversation about
Yeah.
various different details about this relationship. It's very, very complicated. But they pull up in front of the house, and Luke says, "This is home." And when they walk inside, cue more tears because Emily's there holding Nicole, and she hands her back to June. The first time June's held her baby since she handed her to Emily for safekeeping to escape Gilead. And it's just the most brilliantly written moment, right? Oh,
I love that so much.
me too. And everybody's acting is just fucking phenomenal. And when Lindsay says Emily and the music's so beautiful too, and she hands her back, and Emily's crying, and June's crying, and I'm crying, and it's just such a beautiful moment. Then it's nighttime, and she's rocking Holly and tells her, "You're so amazing. You know that? So amazing. Why are you so amazing? I know why, because Luke and Moira are raising you. We're so lucky, aren't we? I also want you to know that your daddy and I love you so much. Your first daddy." And she's obviously thinking of Nick as she keeps rocking her baby. And Holly's adorable koala pajamas say, "I love dad." And, the details in this show, it's a very sweet moment. And I'm really glad that they included it, on the heels of Luke's Our Baby thing.
Yeah.
I think it was important to have this moment with
Yeah.
not forgetting Nick, including Nick.
Yeah, I also love, and this is just another one of those moments that had to have happened naturally, not scripted. But when she says the line, "I also want you to know that your daddy and I love you so much," when she says your daddy, Holly raises her head right when she says that, when she mentions her daddy, and then she rests her head back down on her chest, and then June gives her a little kiss on the top of her head, like, good girl.
Yeah, I also love that. I feel like they were like, "Damn, that was so lucky," like you can't make a baby
Right.
do that, and it worked out perfectly, and it was adorable.
That was definitely magic. Yeah.
Mhm.
They were
And that
just
baby's so
cute.
Yeah.
Like the koala onesie, Australia, representing. It was just so cute. And the way Lizzie said, like, "You're just so amazing, aren't you? You're just so amazing." It was just so cute.
It was really
so
sweet.
I was talking to Scarlett about this, and we both liked the fact that she said, like, your first daddy, because I think it doesn't diminish, like, Nick's role as obviously her real biological father, and also Luke's role that he's, looking after baby Holly while obviously Nick can't be around. And yeah, it was nice. It was a nice little moment.
I like the wording though of this, because this is where I kind of feel like she probably had it on her mind about Luke saying "our daughter." And I feel like this is kind of showing how she feels, because, she says how amazing she is and they're so lucky. And it's because Luke and Moira are raising her, but it's almost like they're one unit. And then she says, "Your daddy and I love you." Almost like her and Nick are a unit here when it comes to Holly. The only time we see her look truly peaceful in this episode is when she's holding their daughter, which is how she's always is with Nick, like peaceful. Like we saw that in the bridge scene,
Yeah.
Then we are with Serena in the prison chapel, praying for a healthy baby and the strength to parent him on her own. And Tuel is listening behind her as she admits to sinning and behaving without light in her heart. And she's sorry and she'll do anything to repent. Please don't punish the baby for the sins of the mother. Tuella says he didn't mean to eavesdrop, and Serena accurately says, "Of course you did. Did you hear everything?" And he admits to hearing a lot. "Did it satisfy you to hear someone from Gilead express misgivings?" And he responds, "Does it satisfy you to express them?" Serena notes he's feeling punchy. Did he see her? He feigns ignorance, and Serena says her lawyer said June was here and it would complicate her case. Tuella says he leaves the law to the lawyers. And she says, "What are you, just a pot stirrer?" He tells her Brad has renewed his request to see her. He doesn't want to be fighting a two-pronged fight against June. And Tuello points out getting him to cooperate could help him too.
I thought it was funny that Serena called Fred a sperm donor.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what Gilead basically is. But she obviously voluntarily and wanted to have sex with him. Not that she thought she'd get pregnant, but I just thought it was funny that she's playing the single mom angle, praying for the strength to parent him on her own and calling Fred the sperm donor. It's just It's just funny to me.
I just like that she's trying to repent her sins.
Do you like it? It annoys me.
I don't know. She's so delusional.
I know.
She
I
just
know.
it's like she's loving that she has power right now. Like she can control Fred. The choices are in her hands. And yeah, she's being typical narcissistic Serena.
Yeah, so she's gone to see him, and when he thanks her, she says, nothing has changed between us. And he says, everything has changed. God has granted us a child of our own, and he wants us to be together. Then Serena basically quotes June and says, it's not your place to guess at the intentions of God, like June said to her on the steps. And do you know what episode that is?
210. She said, no one
210.
knows the things of God.
Yeah, it reminded me of that.
Mhm.
And he says he wants to be a good father to his son and a good husband to you. Serena says it's too late for that. And when he says our pregnancy, Serena says my pregnancy. And then Fred says something that I still can't interpret. His pregnancy belongs to me as much as Offred's belongs to you, because that was zero. But I guess it's just evidence of his continued delusion.
I guess I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, as is his continued use of Offred. That pisses me off. But he says they can't both fight Offred. They have to team up. He'll rescind his testimony against her. They need to give their son the best life they can together. Doesn't she want that?
I liked when Serena said it's too late for that. She flashed her missing finger at him.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
I missed that too.
Did she?
Yeah, like she Fred goes
awesome.
to touch her belly for the second time, and she uses the hand with the missing finger to like push it away, and you can see it in the shot. It just made me laugh.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I did see that. That was funny.
Okay.
I think it was creepy. Fred seems to have a thing for pregnant women. Like it just felt like he was salivating over her, and it was just gross. And I felt like when he tried, it was kind of funny to me that like he tried to touch her belly the first time and she moved away so fast, and it just reminded me of him like touching June's belly a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
Then June wakes up looking a bit out of sorts and comes down as Luke and Moira are talking about Rita and Emily bringing over bread. Very Gilead-esque. Good baby steps for June. And she goes straight to Nicole and kisses her head. And by the way, I'm sorry that I use Holly and Nicole interchangeably, but I do. So she goes straight to Nicole and kisses her head, plays with her as she overhears Moira wanting to take the baby to the grocery store with her to give Luke and June some time together. And Luke's just looking at June. He's just staring at her in a way that would, I think, annoy me or make me feel uncomfortable too. But it's obviously because he hasn't been able to look at her in 7 years and he's so excited. She makes it clear that she's just not really ready to be alone with him. So she asks if she can go with Moira, and Luke gives Moira like a clearly like irritated, confused shrug. Moira says it might be a culture shock, and June says, well, I've been living in Gilead, all I want is culture shock. And then adds maybe they could invite Rita and Emily over tonight too. And Luke's more upset. Are you sure? And June says she'd like to meet Oliver, which would be so cool after hearing about him for years in Gilead. Mm-hmm. But obviously Luke is not happy with her avoiding being alone with him.
Yeah, she's not comfortable because I think probably she thinks that the expectation might be to be, intimate, but obviously she's not really wanting to do that at the moment.
Yeah.
And she knows Rita and Emily and like is comfortable with them. So I think that's another reason why she wanted them over. Plus it's just more people so that she doesn't have to be alone.
But I'm curious if it's purely avoiding being one-on-one with Luke. Like, let's say Luke wasn't there, which makes no sense, I know. But would she still have wanted to go to the grocery store with Moira and Holly? Like, I think she specifically just doesn't want to be one-on-one with Luke because she's...
It kind of annoyed me that Moira wanted to take Holly anyway. I was like...
Oh my gosh, I know!
Yeah.
The second she comes
like,
down,
yeah.
she just comes down and she's picking her up immediately to leave. And I'm like, whoa, back up.
I'm like, yeah. June is like saying hi to Holly and she's going to take her away. I'm like, no, let us spend time with her.
And they're being so cute together.
I think it's also like bothers me though, because she's obviously comfortable with Holly. Like that's the person right now that she's the most comfortable with. I thought it was interesting because when June woke up, she woke up to the sounds of Holly crying. And she kind of looked out the window and they focused on that and the birds were chirping. And back in Gilead, when the birds were chirping, that was usually like a happy moment. And like the natural light coming in the room would be a happier thing. I think this scene was trying to show how disoriented she is.
I think she thought it was like Gilead. Like, I think she was like waking up in shock, like thinking, holy shit, am I still in Gilead? Like, and then
Right,
she
she's-
realizes, whoa, actually, I'm in Canada.
Yeah, that's why I think she was like disoriented and forgetting where she is for a moment, because when the last time she hears Holly crying, she's in Gilead in her room and can't go get her. So it's like they don't know that, obviously, but like for her, she just wants to go and see her. And then all of a sudden Moira's taking her away again without asking her if that's what she wants. And it's just
Moira should definitely know because she's been in so many situations like that. I guess it's definitely different when, you know, obviously it would be very different when it's someone you know, but
I also think June is like, it's also shocking to her again to like go down there. And again, she's seeing that Luke and Moira are a unit. Like they're a family. Things are so natural between them. And like it's almost like they're the married couple. And I think again, she's just very uncomfortable and feels like an outsider, which is probably another reason why she bonds with Holly and like wants to be near her. And then is upset when Moira offers to take her.
Then they're at the grocery store and the electronic doors slide open as a good first glance into a non-Gilead grocery store. It's called Longo. And she's immediately overwhelmed by the surplus. It's so different from Gilead. So much food, also so many words. When they get to the chip aisle, we get our first clue as to how long she's been in Gilead when she says, "What happened to potato chips in 7 years?" And Luke says, "Oh yeah, they made them healthy. I know, travesty." And then Moira joins them with an upset baby and says she's got to change her and get her home. She's 10 minutes from a breakdown. I actually think she's already at the breakdown, but Moira doesn't have a diaper, and Luke and Moira have this adorably comfortable exchange where he tears open a diaper package and tosses her one, says, "I got you." And then after Moira leaves, June kind of dismisses Luke, says she'll meet him at the checkout. She wants to really study the chip aisle, and he goes reluctantly. And then a mom and daughter run by her. A female couple walks by. Everything is just so different than Gilead. And then when she removes the bag of chips, she has a flashback of Alma, and I swear I can hear her saying "sneaky." But June leaves the aisle, and then she sees two women in red gowns. I think they're Muslim, but obviously the timing for seeing someone head to toe in red is bad, as she's kind of beginning a panic attack. And then she sees bottled water with a logo resembling the angel's wings from Gilead, and her brain is just flooded with traumatic memories of the train killing Alma and Brianna, leaving Janine, Serena abusing her, a lot of Serena abusing her, being raped at 9 months pregnant. She's in a full-blown panic attack when the scene goes black. So there was something to be said for not going to the grocery store.
The bit that got me was
shock.
when Janine, like she flashes to Janine saying, "Handmaids always walk in twos, remember?" And then you see Alma and Brianna being hit by the train. I was like,
God. Oh my God.
Oh,
They're so
God.
mean, this show. It's
Yeah,
awful.
I was like, do we need to see that again? Really?
Seriously.
Well, she has to.
But I wonder if she thinks of that too, because she's alone in the grocery store, which she never is really
Right.
alone.
It made me really want her to meet up with Janine next season, please.
That would be amazing. So I had a couple comments because the part where she says, "I'll get the chips and meet you at checkout," was June's line to Luke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was another I'm gonna need some time to decide. And Luke looks a little sort of hesitant,
hurt.
but yeah, a little hurt. But again, she's trying to avoid being alone with him. Like as soon as Moira leaves with Nicole, she's like, okay, now I have to. It's awkward again. I don't want to be alone with Luke, so I'm gonna need a lot more time to look at the chips, and I'll meet you at checkout. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then she does have the panic attack. But my other note was that I just noticed when I was doing my last rewatch that June keeps pulling her hair back into a bun when she first gets into Canada. And I never really thought anything of it before, but I was just wondering if that's old habits, because that's how she would wear her hair in Gilead, except without the bonnet.
I think that's what it is, because I had that same note. And I feel like, again, it's what's familiar to her. This was another scene where she's seeing Luke and Moira be a team and a unit, and she feels left out. And I think she gets annoyed with Luke when he says life with the 1-year-old. She's like, I know, I was there.
I remember.
I think she just feels hurt because it's like, you guys are a team, this is my daughter. And obviously, like, it makes sense because they've been doing this for so long, and you know, they know Holly knows her or knows them, but like, I'm sure she doesn't feel like an actual mother to her daughter. And again, it's just like another example of nothing is the way it was when she left. And it's just more reminders of change. And also, I had another note, which I thought was kind of funny. When she walked into the grocery store, obviously there are words and everything, but hanging from the ceiling, there were lots of pictures of fruit, like just the pictures, which just felt like Gilead, like where they're just showing the pictures of things. I don't know if she picked up on that, but I think that's kind of
No, I
funny.
didn't notice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's nighttime, and June walks downstairs, hearing Moira greeting Oliver and Emily at the door, and then Luke. And it's clear they have a good relationship. June finally gets her courage up and continues down, and she gets to meet Oliver for the first time. She gets down and asks him for a hug. And as they're hugging, the door opens again, and you hear Rita say, I kind of get some of that. And it's my favorite reunion. I love it so much. The way June hugs her, the looks on their faces, like you can tell like she just needed Rita so badly. She needed that. Somebody that lived in Gilead with her and that really understood what she's been through.
Yeah, like she witnessed everything.
Right. And there's no amount of telling anybody something that would compensate for her being there. And the bond that was created.
I think all of this, being in Canada, everything has been so foreign to her, even people who were previously close family to her and close friends. And Rita is the most like family to her right now.
Yeah.
And Rita says, you made it. Praise heaven be, you made it. And she's crying, and it's very Rita thing to say. And it means a lot to Rita too. I think it was hard for her to leave her on the plane, and so it's just all around one of my favorite moments.
Did you guys think that when she was like preparing herself to like go greet Emily and Oliver
on the stairway, right?
Yeah. Do you think she was overwhelmed because it was just people that she had to talk to, or for some reason I thought maybe because it was Oliver, like a kid like around Hannah's age, and like maybe she was
that's a good point.
I don't know.
I wondered too.
I just thought
that's exactly what I thought. And I also wonder if she was thinking Oliver was never trapped in Gilead, but Emily has her son and June does not have Hannah.
Yeah.
Then the women are sharing a beer in the dark living room. Emily's talking about the struggle of going back into the bedroom with Sylvia. She's so patient and kind, and she wishes she didn't have to deal with her. Moira says, we all left that place so fucked up over sex. Emily says, well, you found Una. And Moira says, well, I fucked that one up too. And June's like, no, I did. And Moira says, don't bring that Aunt Lydia shit in here. This is a Lydia-free zone. Then June asks, do you guys ever wonder if you deserve this, to be here? And Emily says sometimes she thinks about what she did in there. But Moira points out, they did what they had to do to survive, to get out. But we're here now, ladies. We won. They tried to fucking destroy us, and we won. And then June asks what they know about Serena, and everybody starts acting weird. She's, what? And Rita tells her that she just saw her, and she wanted my help. You know her, total narcissist. And she knows Rita. June knows Rita's avoiding saying something and says, just tell me. And Rita drops the bomb. She's pregnant. Is it his? Is it the commander's? I was surprised she called him commander, but old habits. And Rita says yes. And June's blinking back tears, but finally says, well, fuck her. I don't care. And Moira and Rita agree. Yeah, fuck her. She looked terrible, Moira said. And Rita says, yeah, she looks like shit, which is total lies. She looks pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
But it's really cute also. Like, I love when Rita says she looks like shit.
Her hair looked disheveled for about 5 minutes. And then
entire shit.
Did they say her bun was too tight?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny to me that they even discuss the fact that Emily is still not back in Sylvia's bedroom on the night after they've thrown June back into Luke's bedroom on day one. And it's like, oh my God, you guys, really? Emily's been here for how long?
I think that's why they did that.
I know it is, but it's just upsetting to me because I'm like,
it makes me sad too, because Bruce said that they wanted to have the actress who plays Sylvia, I think her name's Clea Duvall.
Clea Duvall.
But because of COVID, she couldn't come out to film. And they wanted to I think they were supposed to have a conversation or something with her and Luke to talk about.
That would have been cool, yeah.
And I really, it's such a shame.
They should have done a phone call.
Yeah, it's just a shame though that COVID had to ruin that. But because I feel like that would have really been a great addition to this season.
Yeah,
to show that, because they are trying to show that difference, and it's definitely like
a big difference.
And with Emily, I agree. With Emily and Sylvia, everything seemed really healthy. Sylvia seemed to have incredible instincts about what Emily needed, and just being incredibly patient. And we know Luke loves June. I don't think that's in question. It's just his instincts just seem to be different. Is it a difference between being a man and instead of being a woman? I don't really know. He seems to want to speed things along at a pace that June's not ready for yet.
I doubt Luke's pressuring her into sleeping into the same bed. So it's weird to me that, oh, maybe they don't have another room or something. I don't know. She could probably.
It looks like a small house.
Yeah.
That we don't see those conversations, just asking June
Yeah.
what she wants, what she's comfortable with.
Yeah.
Well, it makes
So
me
we don't
wonder
know.
too, because June is like ready to just assimilate quick too. So then I also wonder, is that June just being like, yes, let's just go back to normal? Because I could see her doing that, but we don't know that.
Yeah, it definitely could be, because that's kind of her attitude, right? Let's go to the grocery store, right? Let's just get everything over with. Yeah, same thing we see later when she's like trying to kiss him and clearly not ready to do so. She's like,
There's like lots of guilt here too.
Yeah, there would be probably, unfortunately, even though, that's what they had to do, but that's what happens, unfortunately.
Yeah. When June found out Serena's pregnant, that was, obviously she was shocked, but I feel like that had to be so hard to hear, because that means they got pregnant naturally. Like, obviously June doesn't know the circumstances, but they got pregnant naturally, which means they didn't need a handmaid, which means she didn't need to go through everything that she went through.
I don't think that's what would piss me off. I'd just be pissed off that she got what she wanted.
Well, that too. And she gets to have her baby in freedom and doesn't have to have somebody like rip it away from her.
Yes. She's getting what she wants, and she shouldn't.
But yeah, I found that so upsetting. And obviously it's really hard for Rita to tell her that at all. And Moira sees Una outside. She's left a gift for June, which is kind of weird considering everything. And Moira wants her to come inside, but she won't. Moira's asking how work is, and Una says they're not allowed back in Gilead. Moira asks if it helps that she brought in this major intelligence asset, and Una laughs. That's probably why we're still in business. And Moira is just pushing to resolve their relationship issues, and Una's like, no, it's over. But eventually Moira keeps pushing and succeeds, and Una agrees to have the fight, just not tonight while I'm freezing. Call me, she says. And Moira looks victorious. Good work, Moira.
I want to know what the gift was.
I know. What would you get? A candle?
Some Vegemite?
That's what you would do.
Jam jar?
Bubble bath.
I didn't like the line she said though, where she's like, you chose your friend over my job and yours. Like, I understand the situation.
No, that's bullshit. Yeah.
As I hear that, I'm like,
chose her life.
Obviously you're going to choose the life of your best friend over somebody's job, even though your job is very important. Like, you say job to me, I'd be like, fuck that. I'm choosing my friend.
Her life.
I know.
Like, literally her life.
That job must be so difficult. Like, I couldn't even imagine you have to leave all those people and you're trying to help, and it's, oh gosh.
Yeah, that would be awful.
Yeah, it's such a complicated situation though, and you would kind of think that instead of drawing such a hard line, Una would be a little bit more understanding about why Moira, felt so strongly about it and did what she did.
Yeah. And inside we see June and the torture holes in the kitchen. Luke asks her if she had fun. She says, yeah. And they have this awkward moment where he's clearly expecting something from her. And so she goes to hug him, but her arms are like close to her chest, kind of in a defensive stance. And then she goes to try to kiss him, but it's super awkward already until he touches her ear tag and she pulls away. And then when she tries again, she has to pull away again. And it's also awkward. And he says, sorry, I shouldn't have. And she says, no, it's all right, and grabs her wine and walks off as he's still trying to talk to her.
There was a lot of apologizing in that scene.
Yeah. Both sides.
It was super awkward. And way too soon, obviously. You should not try to
this is still like day 2, or it's just so soon. And it's like the first time, I think, that they're truly alone together. She seems to sense expectations. And I'm not sure if when she kisses him, if it's because she wants to try. I think it's probably both. She wants to try it, and it's also what he seems to be expecting. What did you guys think?
I think she wants to get it over with. Like,
yeah,
obviously it is what he's expecting, and she wants to like maybe it'll be fine, maybe it'll be easy. Let's just get it over with, but it's not. Like, she's not comfortable.
Yeah, especially when he touches that ear tag. Do you remember when Fred like played with that ear tag at Jezebel's? Ugh,
Oh,
like, it
Uh,
No,
yeah.
I don't remember that. Did he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he
Oh
Yeah.
did.
God, I hate him so much more now.
Yeah, he did. He touched it
That's
when
bad.
he was like
That
picking her hair back.
fucker.
Obviously,
Oh my
didn't
God.
Luke didn't do that on purpose, but like, obviously, when someone's gonna touch her ear tag, it's gonna flash to that disgusting moment.
Oh,
But that's the
gross.
I
sad
just
thing
got-
about this with them, because he doesn't know, he wouldn't know
Mhm.
these little things.
No,
But
Right.
she unfortunately remembers everything.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was thinking about this last night. Like, I don't know if she would have tried to kiss him if she didn't just hear this news about Serena. Because a part of me wondered, like, did that play a role in her wanting to be distracted? I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
she's probably just like, "Fuck you, Serena. I want to try and get on with my life,"
Yeah.
but she can't because it's just it's too much. It's too soon.
I'm also worried about her hangover tomorrow because she hasn't been drinking in 7 years and she's drinking a lot tonight.
That's a good point.
So then they're laying in bed later and she's clearly unsettled, upset, thinking about Serena. And specifically, I believe the flashback is the scene where Serena asks June to have sex with Nick, I think, where it shows her like gardening.
in the garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then a car pulls. Is the car picking her up or dropping her off? I was unclear.
I thought it was picking her up.
Yeah, I was picking her
It
up.
looks like it was in like an office building parking lot or something. I don't know. That part confused me.
Yeah, and I wonder if June drove there and then like Tuello picked her up, because maybe she can't just like drive to fancy Canadian jail.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Tuello picks her up.
But one thing I noticed though about that scene, by the way, the parking lot, there was 2 patches of grass, and one of them was really dark and one of them was really light. I love how they do the lighting in this show, because I feel like it shows the 2 sides between these women, because it's something we saw a lot like in season 1 and 2, where like June would be in natural light and Serena would be in darker light. But I
Right.
feel like that's kind of what they're trying to show here, the difference between these 2 women.
I like it. Yeah, so Tuello picks her up and takes her to see Serena in the middle of the night. And this would be against like so many rules I can't even begin to think about them, but it's an incredible scene. Serena says, "I prayed for this chance and I humbly thank the Lord for your visit." And June responds perfectly. "You would. You never did give me credit for anything."
I love that.
And LOL at Tuello choosing this moment to leave them alone.
I cannot believe he left them alone, by the way.
No, it's insane.
I know.
Then Serena, tone deaf as always, continues, "I believe that the Lord brought you here so I could make amends." And June responds, "I brought myself here so I could tell you how much I hate you." I love these lines. Everyone.
Me too.
You don't deserve to make amends to anyone. The only thing you deserve is a life full of suffering and shame. You've destroyed my life, my family, my friends, my country, and my child. There is no one less worthy of redemption than you. So good. These are such spot on lines. I love them all. Well, there's one that's questionable. But Serena says, "I'm sorry," tearfully, sadly. She gets on her knees until June's towering over her, and we see June from her perspective. And Serena starts begging her for her forgiveness and the Lord's mercy and understanding. Once again, she switched to God, like not June. June's in front of her. But anyway, June's not feeling very forgiving at the moment. "Do you know why God made you pregnant? So when he kills that baby inside your womb, you will feel a fraction of the pain you caused us when you tore our children from our arms. Do you understand me?" And then she grabs her chin for the second one and screams again, "Do you understand me?" And it's such a fucking good scene. Oh my God, I love it so much. The way she says fraction, I mean, I can never do math with my kids again because I literally think of that every time I think about fraction. What's wrong with you? Why are you spitting at them, drooling? What does she do? Like, she's spitting, I guess. Yeah, because she lets go of Serena's chin. And also I love when she wipes the spit off of her mouth before leaving, before walking out. I just love all
I love
of it.
her ginger tap at the door. Like she has this incredibly like just the scene where she just unloads everything inside her to Serena, and then she's done and she goes to the door and just tap tap on the door. Just I thought that was very very funny.
It is funny. And obviously this is what Serena did to her in season 1 when she had her period and therefore wasn't pregnant. And it was, obviously extra insane because not June's fault. And she has her on the floor screaming, "Do you understand me?" at her. But I think that June won
Amazing.
the battle of the "Do you understand me" scenes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I must say though, I'm very bitter that Lizzie did not win any awards for this season, because as soon as I saw, the first thing I said when I saw that scene was like, Elizabeth Moss deserves the goddamn Emmy for this. Like
I
she,
know.
this scene. I mean, she's amazing
just for
in
that scene
general.
alone.
But that scene, I was like, God, she's just so
Mm.
good.
I fully agree.
Ugh.
I just love how Serena's still like dismissing June's like everything, and she's just saying this was God's doing. You know, I
Oh my
pray to
God,
God that He will forgive me. I believe God will do this for me. And June's like, no, I'm doing this, and
Yes.
I'm here
Right.
now. I'm out of Gilead,
Mhm.
so I'm doing this. You're not
Mhm.
doing it. God's not doing it. This is me,
Yeah.
June.
Because I fucking hate you.
I love those lines too.
She doesn't ask June for forgiveness. She says she wants God's mercy and understanding,
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
June, give me your
Ugh.
mercy.
Oh, it's such an infuriating scene. But yeah, I'm glad that June calls her out on it, like you said, Kimberly, every time.
And Yvonne's face is in this is so like she looks like a scared little deer. I love her.
I know.
Like
Cowering.
Yeah, she's awesome in it too. Totally. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also love that June is wearing a teal sweatshirt and her hair is in a bun.
Yeah.
Her hair's in a bun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Oh,
wife-like.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
good one.
It would be funny if she like went to the costume shop and bought like a wife's outfit. And she went there.
I also think it was interesting because a lot of the things June was saying to her, especially about the baby, was kind of what like Serena was praying about, like the opposite for earlier in the episode. Fred had also said to Serena earlier that June can prevent Serena from being a mother to her son. And now you have June literally threatening her and the baby.
Yeah, I think I would have threatened like kidnapping her child versus it dying in the womb. But hey, that's what she was feeling.
My notes that I wrote down, I just read. I wrote Serena crying boohoo.
Then when June gets home, she looks at
No.
what?
I hate.
You don't want to do
talk
it?
about
I
it.
know.
No.
Should we skip it?
No.
No.
No, we have to
Let's
talk
just-
about it.
I agree. It's terrible. When June gets home, she looks at sleeping Luke and seems to be on a mission. She puts her hands down his pants, and when he wakes up, trying to catch up, she straddles him and just starts writing, a kind of furious or at least like focused look on her face. And when he says wait, she covers his mouth and holds down his arm so he can't touch her either when he tries to. And that's how she continues until she climaxes as he just looks on confused at who this June is. Thoughts?
Silence.
So this is where they were echoing earlier when Moira says they're all fucked up about sex. Like here's a terrible example, not terrible, but here is a example of that.
I think this was both. First of all, yes, I do think it was rape, but
Mhm.
I know that's a controversial topic. But I think it was two things. I think it was one, like the kiss in the kitchen, like something that she feels is expected of her and she's going to need to get over at some point. And two, her like anger at Serena, like just trying to vent that situation. So like two birds with one stone.
She
Do
had
this, but it's
I
awful.
think she was feeling powerful because of, like,
yeah.
because of what she did with Serena, and I feel
Right.
like she was trying to get her own, what's the word?
She
Her own
is-
agency back.
Just taking it back.
Taking it back in probably the worst possible way you can do it. But I think that's what she was doing.
For sure.
I'm not sure I think this had anything to do with Luke, though. I feel like this, I think that's why she tries so hard to remove him from the equation. Like this was, she's not letting him participate. She's silencing him. She's covering his mouth. She doesn't let him touch her. She pushes his hand down. And she really, I mean, what it looks to me is just she's using him. So that's why I don't equate this with what happened in the kitchen with the kiss. That I do think was a moment where she was trying to rip the Band-Aid off and just try to kiss him again. This seemed to have nothing to do with their actual relationship, and it seemed like she was just a moment where she just had it. She felt powerful, and sometimes she expresses this with sexual energy, and that seemed to be all it was about to me.
Yeah, you may be right.
It was like he was just a body.
Yeah.
Because she closed her eyes. And it didn't even look like she wasn't really looking at him, but even when she kind of did, it looked like she was seeing right through him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I don't think she was seeing him at all. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's surprising to me she even kissed him. I don't know if she only did that because she needed
I think
him
to wake
him up. Well, so then I think that kiss would have been related to the kitchen kiss. Like it failed. Like let's just get it done with. but I don't.
And
It's all very complicated. I find myself saying that a lot.
yeah, and he was so like disoriented because he's in a dead sleep, and then all of a sudden this shocking thing is happening, and like he
It would
tries
be
to
disorienting.
Okay, so this is something that, as much as this is terrible, this is something that people who've been sexually abused do sometimes. So it's not like it's unusual behavior, sadly. And I'm not excusing it at all. I'm just saying, like, it's just something some survivors, it's just part of their trauma sometimes. And Luke obviously doesn't understand that, as most people wouldn't understand that. And he doesn't know, like, it's got to be so hard for him, obviously, because of the situation, but he doesn't know about her trauma, you know? And so, like, he doesn't know what to do with this situation because she looks kind of scary. So, like, you can't really.
Who would? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody
So
would know what to do here.
Of course. And so it's
Poor
just,
Luke.
yeah. And like he tries to connect with her.
Yeah.
And she just immediately pushes him away, you know? And it's just.
You feel horrible for him because for a moment, as she starts, he gets a look like he's happy, like, oh, look, she's trying to
he definitely
reconnect
gets
with me.
turned on by the fact that
and I think, had it not gone the way it did, he would have been really, engaged with it, and he would have been happy it happened, but not the way it happened. That wasn't at all obviously not what he wanted.
No.
It was horrible.
Then it switches to June watching Luke toss Holly in the
We did
air.
it. Sorry.
I know, it wasn't so bad.
We got through it.
Nice job, everybody. We're done.
Gold star.
Then it switches to June watching Luke toss Holly in the air, and she seems able to slide her family mask on and off because at first she didn't look like the happy, interactive mom. But then when he brings Holly over to her, she does. And they have this seemingly happy family moment with a voiceover starting. That we see then is her talking to Willow, seemingly about Serena, but also very clearly about herself. She's pathological. She's a sociopath. She's toxic and abusive. She's a monster. And by the way, a consummate actress. And they're showing like flashes of her and Luke throughout most of this, as well as Serena. And he asks, what do you think drives her? Hatred and rage. And underneath all of that, there's nothing but pure misery. And at that point, Serena walks into Fred's cell and says, I need you, Fred. Back to June, she continues, and she'll do anything not to feel that way, anything to feel okay, even just for a second. She'll do anything to get what she wants. Lie to you, hurt you, rape you. So if you feel yourself getting sucked in by her, run. Run for your life. And the camera was specifically on Luke looking at June as his face falls when she says rape you. And it stays on him for that whole beat until the run for your life part, when it finally switches back to a close-up of June in Tuela's office. And in the background is Tuela's murder board, which we've all done our best to zoom in on and pick up on as much as it can.
Pause the screen, take pictures, zoom in.
Sharpen them. And a misspelled post-it note. I want to know who misspelled positive ally on that post-it note. I want to know very badly.
I know.
It's like, what does it say?
I mean, yeah, I'm assuming this is all Tuelo's writing, and I'm like, Tuelo's handwriting sucks. And we can get details from it, but yeah, I mean, it could be intentional because I would say a lot of the details that I was able to read off of that board were things we already kind of knew, and some of the details that I couldn't read were maybe the ones that may have been a little bit more telling or interesting, but I'm not totally sure.
Like Nick's Facebook page.
I want to see those comments. Yes, what I was able to decipher. Recruited to Sons of Jacob in 2012, born in Detroit, was trusted advisor to Fred before promotion to commander. I think I put infantry military field commander. And yeah, I had the note about the sticky note.
I think, though, this is where we officially find out that Nick was only 19. Because they had his driver's license on there. So he was only 19 when he joined the SOJ, which
he joined Sons of Jacob.
Again, he was just so young.
And we're not excusing him, but they give us this information for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make amends.
I think it's interesting that, so like, you know, when June wakes up earlier in the episode, you hear the birds chirping. And in this scene, like, you have the ominous music and the natural light, and you hear the birds chirping again. And like, it seems like happy things are occurring here with her and Luke and Holly having their cute little moment and playing. But then you have the ominous music, and she looks angry, and she's dressed all in black. And it's almost like if you play into that whole like light and dark between her and Serena, it's like she's come into the dark side, at least at the end of this episode, which is interesting because earlier in this season, June was almost shown like an angel a few times, like in the end of episode 2 when she gets arrested.
One of my notes on the scene was when they flashed to Serena and Fred, and June was talking to Tuello, and she says, and by the way, she's a consummate actress. And then she walks into Fred and she's like, I need you, Fred. And then, Fred goes to touch the baby's belly, and obviously she lets him this time. And, then now she really needs to work together, but it's all fake. She doesn't give a fuck about Fred. She just needs him now because of June.
Right.
I think it's an interesting parallel too, because in the beginning of this episode, we see June looking in the mirror when she gets to the hotel. And it's almost like, when I think of a mirror, I think of two sides, I guess, or your reflection.
I think especially when June says that she'll do anything not to feel pure misery. It was a bit like when she went and saw Serena. Obviously that helped her. And then I guess trying to kiss Luke as well, trying to move on with things, and the horrible rape scene, she's trying to get her agency back. She's trying to feel, I guess, normal again.
Yeah, and maybe she's also thinking of like how she was in Gilead when she lived at that house, because she says Serena's a consummate actress. She'll do anything to get what she wants. She'll lie to you. Those are all things June had to do with Fred and with Serena sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's what she needed to do to survive.
I think what was also weird to me about this was that when, when she says hurt you, rape you, and obviously when she says rape you, we see Luke, and obviously what Kate said, he looks at her for a bit, and it kind of caught me, like, does he realize what she did to him last night, or is he just thinking, yeah, she's really not okay here, or because just looked intentional to me, like surely they couldn't think it wasn't right when they said that whole speech, and then
exactly,
like, it's just
I think it's him though, also looking at her like she's a stranger. He doesn't know this woman. She's not at all and I think that's really when he's really seeing like she is not at all who I used to know, and I don't know this woman,
right? But I just think, as like what Kimberly's saying, is the writers and director's choice was showing that shot when she talks about rape was probably intentionally saying, yes, that's what she did last night. Plus, if you switch the genders, there's no question everybody would think that is rape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis of this episode. If you're a longtime fan, hang out for a beat, and we will talk about our dwindling deep dive notes as we get to the end of season 4. Kimberly, would you like to sing us a song?
What do you want this week?
Oh, something poppy. No, I don't know. What's on your brain?
Hey, what's the matter with her? Come and get your love.
It's so good. I love your little voice.
I don't know why that's always in my head, but it was. I love that when they play it in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That's the perfect tone.
All right, so who's got deep dive notes?
I thought it was funny that, like, in the beginning of this episode, Tuello is so excited to see June, and like throughout the episode, he's impressed with her. He wants to hear what she has to say, and like he seems like, he wants to help her. And then by the time we get to the finale, like he doesn't really care anymore about what she has to say, but he's more interested in Fred's intel. Yeah, he cares more about like Fred's intel, and basically is like, okay.
Yeah, and I disliked how it kind of started here when he tells Serena to team up with Fred against June, right? So he's already thinking in that way, sort of, dealing with June.
Yeah.
He says you don't want to have a two-pronged attack.
But it did say on the murder board that one of the notes for Serena was about like using her pregnancy. So I feel like, I don't think he's intentionally trying to go against June, but he's definitely using information to his benefit.
Having them team up hurts June, but it is to his benefit. So
it does. But I mean, like, I think in his mind, he's like, well, this helps our case, but it doesn't help June.
Well, let's just talk about Tuello and Serena for a minute. Like, it's so over the top on my rewatch how much he's into her until there's like a couple moments where he loses his crush for a second, like when Fred tells her that she made Nick and June have sex against their will. And then again, when she gets pregnant, he's like disgusted when he tells her.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to I don't know, I think this is 410, when he's like, are you really going back with him? Like, clearly like hurt about it.
After we had sex and, no joke.
It's so... Maybe.
After we spend that intimate night together.
Speculation.
It was definitely obvious at first, like, especially when, you know, he didn't realize how shit she was. Yeah,
it's like that's the thing that gets me the most, is that he gathers more and more and more information about Serena and who she really is and what she did in Gilead as things go along, but that little seeming crush on her just never really seems to go away. And it made me wonder in this episode, when he's listening to June's debrief about Serena, I mean, we see all the visuals that seem to indicate that this is a duel. She is talking about Serena, but she's also talking about herself. But to Twello, she's talking about Serena. Yeah. And it just makes me wonder if there's anything getting through to Twello in her speech about Serena about this, or is he constantly battling his image of Serena, which seems to be idolized, and all of these horrible, monstrous things that he's learning about her as things go along. Then he listens to June's testimony, going into even more meticulous detail about all of the monstrous things that Serena did to her, especially instigating the rape when she was 9 months pregnant. And it's like he still holds on to whatever thick feelings he has for her, and it keeps rising to the surface every time he interacts with her. And it's like, what would it take for this guy to lose his shine on her?
Well, he was disappointed in her when he told her about like her having forcing Nick and June to have sex, and then she got arrested for that. Like, he looked disappointed in her, and I'm like,
but he got past it.
Yeah, he got past that, and then he hears all this other even worse information, and it's just like, eh.
Well, but he said, I can't even remember in which scene or episode, but he said, like, everything she did, she was forced to do by Gilead. Like, this is his rationale in his brain. Obviously, it's not true, but he holds on to that as her defense. And, like, the most infuriating scene to me is when Moira was being honest with her about her husband raping her, and he's like, that's uncalled for. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, you telling her it's uncalled for her to state a fact that her husband raped both her friend and herself, and you just said that's uncalled for to Moira. Oh my god, that was the worst moment for me. That was his lowest moment.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I had was we never see Una and Moira together again.
Yeah, I think this was their last scene that we saw this season.
Yeah. Did you guys like her? Would you want her back?
I was very neutral about Una, but I think, you know, what I said earlier probably goes more in the less favorable column, that she just did not seem to have a full understanding of Moira's behavior or her choices, because it seems like this is, you know, it's complicated, and I understand where Una's coming from when she says, you think I've never had to leave anybody behind. But at the same time, it's like she has to understand Moira's position, and instead of just drawing a hard line and just being like, you chose your best friend over me and my work, and it just, it seems like she could have had a little bit more flexibility in her understanding of that situation.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of neutral on Una, but there's just too much that happened. I think it's not gonna work out, because how do you get past that?
Even like chemistry wise, I didn't totally feel it 100% between Moira and Una.
I didn't either.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I really liked Odette. I liked Odette and Moira, and I never felt that way about Una and Moira.
I mean, Moira was trying to, the words were there that this seemed to be a love she had on the same level as Odette, but I never felt that.
No, I think she just wants that. Like, it seems like this is the first relationship we've seen her have in Canada. I mean, I don't know if she's had others, but so I just almost wonder if maybe this is her, just she wants that so bad, you know?
I think she can find someone better, hopefully in season 5. Fingers crossed.
Yes,
so.
I hope so too. I'd like to see that.
I know that Samira, whenever she's interviewed, that's like the one thing she wants. She wants Moira to find
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
to love.
Yeah.
She wants a love life. I like that. I love her.
So one of the parallels I did think about, the only times that we see June looking happy and peaceful after she's in Canada is when she's with Holly, when she's with Nicole, whichever name we're using, and when she sees Nick in 4-9. And it's just very telling that these people in her life and the love she has for them, it's like it's what brings out her truest self and what makes her feel the most centered and grounded and the most at home, really, and the most happy.
I love that too. And I do love in this episode and really going forward, like every time she's with Holly, she gets that peaceful look. Like Holly is an extension of her and Nick. So like she's an extension of that peaceful feeling she feels with him. And I love that they show that. But it's nice to see like June obviously thinking about him. And it's happy, not stressful.
Yeah.
And absolutely the happiest she is when the three of them are together and they're having their family moment in 4-9.
And also we were kind of talking earlier about when Luke said our daughter about Holly when they were in the hotel, and in 409 he calls Holly his daughter, as in Nick's daughter.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like, again, I don't think he intentionally said it to like cause stress. It just goes along with what we know about the rest of the season and what it seems his feelings on Nick are. Like he just doesn't see him as, well, I think he just doesn't want to know what June still feels for him. But also he feels like, I could think he feels like Nick is just, he's not there. He's not going to be there. So he wants to just, I guess, push him out of his mind. And he's trying to like help him and June feel like a family again.
But like you said, it seems like he's trying to just ignore the reality of Nick's biology in that situation and the fact that that he's somebody who emotionally means something to June. Maybe neither of them are ready maybe to have that conversation, which needs to happen. He's just very conveniently just not wanting to include Nick in that situation until later on when it's something that he can use to his benefit to try and get information about Hannah.
I think he's also because he can look after this baby and he's not replacing Hannah, but he feels like Holly is not a second chance, but I feel like maybe he thinks that Hannah's obviously never coming back.
It's a way for him to redeem himself a little, maybe.
It's a bit like a stepdad situation too, like when your parents split up or something and maybe little kids will call both of you daddy.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our analysis of this episode. Come back on Monday when we discuss season 4, episode 8. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
That word, malicious and I love you so much is your favorite. Is your favorite word.
I love Rita so much. I know I say a lot. Fuck off.
So much.